before we start, let us remember and honor the innocent souls that lost their lives in Gaza, Sudan, and the Congo. So we will start by standing for 1 minute in silence.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you.
Welcome to our session on social protection systems and those who fall through the cracks of such systems. And today we have a diversified regional, from different countries, the speakers. We have from Africa, Kenya, North Africa, and the main region, Shereen, and Maria José from Argentina, and Katarina from Denmark. So, I need my glasses. So we will start by Esther. Oh yes. Esther Kimani is a Pan-African feminist from Kenya. She is a SRHR, Sexual and Reproductive Human Rights expert, and founder of Zamara Foundation. And she's going to tell us about the current situation in Kenya with regards to social protection systems, the challenges, and recommendations. So we have 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yes. And don't mind the time, I will do this.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much for that and for me for starting.
Welcome everyone, and thank you for coming here for us to have this conversation. And I think when you think about the social protection systems in Kenya, for me, up to now, I think about the first social protection system that came into place when it was around in 2004 about cash transfers, which most countries in Africa have that. Usually it's the first social protection system that is there. Can I not use this?
I am very
Just
a little bit far away.
I am loud. I promise to be loud.
Okay. You can use it, but a little bit.
Because can I not use it? I promise to be very loud.
Okay. Good.
Yeah. Activists, we have very loud voice. Much better, right?
Yes.
And when I look at how when Kenya got independence till now, in 2022, we in Kenya already has like 5 social protection systems. One of which is the cash transfer program, which really factors elderly people, factors orphans and vulnerable children, factors persons with disabilities, and also person with severe, so they call it persons with severe disabilities when it comes to cash transfer. So when you think about who also falls within the cracks, it also depends on how the government defines your severity of your disability for you to be able to get into the program. And then of course we have another program that is National Health Insurance Fund, which is for everyone, but mostly those that are employed. It's a mandatory contribution that we pay. And the idea of this NHIF, we call it NHIF, National Health Insurance Fund, is that then it provides affordable health insurance for all citizens. That those that are able to pay for it that then they are able to pay for those that do not have, so that then they can get the service. And then of course we have for, National Social Security Fund, which is also a mandatory provision for employees, so that then when you retire, you also get cash benefits from it. And then of course there's one, Kenya, because of the different weather conditions, so we have one that is called the National Drought Management Authority that also came into place, and what it does is that it allows, Kenyans to get support when it comes to disasters and drought and climate related disasters. And most of these social protection interventions usually are through food aid, cash transfer, livelihoods to support communities during drought periods. But then the question you ask yourself, these are amazing. When you look at the policies, I was reading this yesterday and today, and I'm like, all these social protection mechanisms are amazing in paper, but do they work? Who really, falls through the cracks? Think about adolescent girls, young women, even boys, elderly women, and also, those that are severely disabled. So if you're not severely disabled, chances are you will not get this cash transfer. And it got me thinking about an elderly woman that we tried to support a few years ago, and here I'm going through the challenges. And I remember the case of Warenga, who was in her early 80s. When this cash program started, cash transfers started for elderly, it didn't start countrywide. It started piloted in 3 different districts. Now we call them counties. And at that time, first you had to go register within your chief, a local community elder. First you register there your name, and then when you register, this chief decides if you're elderly enough or not. And you also remember, long time ago for Kenyans, and this also happens in so many other countries, is that registrations of birth those many years ago was not proper, right? So you find that many elderly people did not have identity cards. So they don't even know how old they are, which is the case of, of Warenga. So what happens is that then she was forced to go and start registering to get a national identity card. Remember, you're old, she's old, vulnerable. She's now actually supposed to get this cash transfer, but now the first thing is to do what? To go and register to this office, which is very far from where she was, 1. And then 2, she has to find a birth certificate. Someone who's born 8 years ago, 80 years ago, where will they get a birth certificate? She has to go to the hospital where she was born. She doesn't have family to go and ask, where was I born? So you realize that when we started following up all these systems, it took her 3 years to get registered, just registered to be in the system, and another 1 year to be able to start getting cash transfers. Because how it is designed is that you have to go and collect this money in a bank account. You can't get a bank account if you don't have a national identity card. You can't get a national identity card before you have a birth notification card. So you see all those different layers. And 8-year-old, this process took such a long time. By the time she was able to get into the system and start getting all these, cash transfers, it's only $20. Inflation, cost of living is very high. So even the $20 is not even enough for her to cater for her needs. And of course, old age diseases come, her people are helping her pay this national insurance fund, national health insurance fund, only to realize that this national health insurance fund does not also cover all the diagnoses. So an 8-year-old who is sick, which took her almost 4 years to get the $20 every month, now she's sick, and even the little contribution that her people were paying to the government, she's not able to access health. And, less than 3 years into the program, Warenga died. That's the story of my grandmother. And I was with her through all that time. And what this shows is that it actually just shows the fact that, some of the challenges of this, in this social protection mechanism is in how it is being implemented. The difficulties. And if Warenga didn't have someone like me, who is kind of learned, or my mom, then it means that she would not even have gotten into the list. The same, imagine also an orphan and vulnerable child. Imagine a person with disability, mostly, they don't have anyone to be able to talk, to support them into that. Also, the other challenges that we've seen when it comes to this social protection is in terms of coverage. You find that when they start this program, they start in only a few areas. By the time it's expanding, and of course, one of us is going to talk about debts and loans and of course, financing for this social protection. And of course, they'll also talk about how countries also have not been able to put in enough resources when it comes to social protection schemes. Of course, then we talk about the lack of investments of government into people, human resource to administer these programs. The capacity they have, weak administration of this, both at all levels. Think about that local leader who has to ascertain if you're either born in that region or you're in that community or not. If, for example, you have conflicts, or they wanted, in our culture, in the rural area, such this chief have power to say, I want your daughter, or I want them. If you are not able to accept whatever they want, then it means that you'll never get into that list. So such challenges. And also the other challenges is in terms of data and information gaps. And this, our country takes a long time to conduct census. So it means that in the different districts, sub-counties, wards, in the different locality constituencies, actually people don't have information in terms of how many people are there, how many people are born. We remember for all that living in Africa and other, global south, most women actually deliver in homes or within the village. So, by the time they even go to for example, hospital, these children are 3 years old or 4 years old. So you find that even there's no information gap when it comes to, how many children are born, who are orphans that need these services. So also that's also another challenge. I think also just the awareness and access barriers, which I've talked about. Think about Warenga's story. So at times, by the time these programs are starting, nobody knows about them. And it's only few people who either have television, have radio stations, or have vigilant, community elders that can be able to tell them about these programs. And if they're not told these programs, how will you know you are even eligible to be able to access this? And, and even in terms of geographical location. And I think one of the things that these challenges means is that it needs different actors to ensure that then we work together to improve these different mechanisms that are there. In terms of paper and how they've been designed, they are amazing, programs that can help orphans and vulnerable children, that can help, elderly people, that can help those that are living with disabilities. But you realize that it's in these challenges in terms of how they administer, in terms of access, the lack of awareness, that they're not able to do that. So with all these things that I'm saying, what would I recommend for me? Some of us here are CSOs like myself, and I think one of the things that we have seen consistently, even here at the CSW, is when they're making those decisions, women and girls are nowhere to be found. When they're designing these programs, they're not looking at what are the real needs, critical needs of the different people these mechanisms sought to address. And I think one of, for me, recommendation is the fact that they should be, in networking. How can I say? Like governments together with CSOs, together with community leaders, working together to develop these mechanisms, social protection mechanisms that really make sense, really address the needs, and even have a really roadmap. Okay, we are saying cash transfers. Is $20 really enough? It's questions like $20 is really $20 really enough for a child-headed household who is an orphan that they have 4 children? Where can we be able to make sure that we have recommendations for this? What are the toolkits that we can have to say, if you fall under through these different guidelines, you're going to get more, and these people are going to get this amount. And that can only happen if the different stakeholders work together to do that. And I think the other, for me, recommendation is the fact that it needs to be universally coverage. So if a social protection program has, been developed, how can we ensure that it reaches every single person at the same time? So that then, as they're coming up, as they're thinking about, as they're monitoring, they're able to get the results to improve it at the same time. Because at times when you start with a small pilot, in this district or in this rural area, the results that they get in terms of the challenges will be different from a different county or a different district. So it means that as they're improving this program based on this one, it might not be able to really, be the same, because there are different people, different localities, and different needs. So I think, for me, I would say that it should be, universal. It should be covered universally, so that then you're able to really think about how the different ways to be able to improve it. I think also it's high time for the government to start prioritizing investment in human capital development. When it comes to investment, in investment in education, ensuring that education is free for everyone, that is, and it's free and everyone can be able to get. Healthcare, nutrition, enhanced quality education, and really other services that really promote human development, productivity, and social inclusion. And if in health, if government are able to prioritize and invest in this human development capital, then it means that we'll have, healthy people that are able to work 12 hours, not to say you should, 12 hours to continue the economy of the country, right? We want to get more money. And I think last but not least that I'll say is that I think also it's important for the government to start strengthening resilience to economic and social environmental shocks and crises through social protection mechanisms. We all know, for example, and I'll talk to Kenya, I'll speak about Kenya, which I'm from, that we always get a drought. But what are those, resilience and shock mechanisms that we have? Because each and every time we have a drought, we still have to ask Kenyans to contribute. So what is it that we are learning from this? Why is it that we are not able to ensure that we build resilience mechanism for that? And yeah, I only have one minute left.
I'm doing my job, and you can do yours.
And I think I'm actually done. And I think for me, one last thing is to really foster collaboration. Like, foster collaboration. There's no single, we don't live a single issue life, such that those people that are working with the government on social protection mechanism can work with those that are working on access to health, especially sexual and reproductive health and rights. The people that are working, closely and asking IMF, why are you giving us loans with these horrible austerity measures? You're able to work with that. And also those that are working on economic justice and also climate crisis are able to work together. It is in the working together that then we can be able to really ensure that all these issues are affecting all people are able to be addressed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Esther. And you have mentioned a lot about the recommendations. It makes us think who can take these recommendations and push them through with other players, be of help, and so on. And I leave it afterwards to the floor when after the four speakers speak, if you have ideas or feedback to be given to this very good presentation from Esther. And you have mentioned this, you call them horrible, horrific austerity measures and policies, which takes us right away to Shereen Talaat. Shereen is a feminist. Shereen Talaat is a feminist and advocate with over a decade of experience in building coalitions around social and economic rights. She's the director and founder of the Mena movement. Dedicated to economic development and ecological justice, she works towards right-based economic policies with a particular focus on debt justice. feminist economics and climate justice. In 2022, she was recognized as one of the most influencing voices of climate finance among other 10 activists from around the global movement. She continues to make meaningful contributions to the global dialogue, striving to transformative change and justice on a broader scale. With 18 years of activism, Shereen worked on linking local and global pro-rights movements vital for her efforts in promoting justice within the global financial architecture, including international financial institutions policies. Additionally, she serves as a member of the CSO Advisory Board for the World Trade Organization President. In addition to her activism, Shereen is a distinguished filmmaker. She's an artist. Having completed her studies at the Academy of Cinema Art and Technology. She also holds an associate's degree in human rights and refugees from the American University in Cairo, along with various other certificates that underscore her diverse expertise. And when they just met, she said, I just finished in August something in Denmark, yet one other certificate from Denmark, but it is not written here. You have to find out it by, eardropping. So you're going to tell us about the effect of the monetary and financial institutions policies on the social protection in the region and the austerity policies without any attribute. Yeah, we don't know yet. When you describe them, we will. The austerity policies applied by the governments.
Okay. Thank you, Iman, and thank you, my sister, for putting us in the context. Kenya is not that far and different from where I come from. I'm Egyptian and I live in Morocco, and it's the Mashriq Maghreb dilemma and different policies and measures. First, I want to be able to speak about austerity measures, and that relates to cutting, of course, on public spending. Public spending mean weak social protection programs targeted. It is targeted social protection programs or targeted versus universal and cash flows programs, etc. The same $20 that you're having in Kenya, we're having in Egypt. The same $20, different context, different reality, different even wage scale, different taxation system, but the same $20 that we're having in Kenya, we're having in Egypt. Well, in Morocco, things are more elevated. I can say that in terms of social protection policies, Morocco is the most developed, has the most developed program, but with horrible implications and a lot of structure issues and gaps. And that is all because of the vicious circle of austerity measures that we are fiscal consolidation, that we're living under in the global south. And of course, I'm focusing more on Mashriq Maghreb region, Mena region. But I also have to be able to understand how this austerity measures was created, or why. We need to understand that those austerity measures are the faithful sons and daughters, I don't think daughters, for the debt crisis and the debt huge burden that we are living under. Not only the debt itself, but what comes within the policies related to that. Many of us doesn't know, for example, that our countries that is facing a huge climate crisis with limited resources, limited also climate finance to meet our climate needs, either resilience or mitigation or even the SDGs are paying something called surcharges. Surcharge is an additional fee that we are paying as the most indebted countries. Not all the countries that are paying surcharges that on the IMF programs, but the most indebted countries, for example, from the region, Egypt, Tunisia, Jordan are paying surcharges. Morocco is still in a safe space, but not for long. There is around 63 countries that maybe will follow in the future paying surcharge. Argentina, you are having a huge problem on that and more. Like my heart is with you guys. And so this being the benefit of paying the benefit of the debt and adding on it the surcharges is putting us on a severe, harmful, also against human rights law problems. And so I can not only speak about austerity measures without even linking it to surcharges. And there is a campaign that is led by civil society that was established last year, advocating to eliminate surcharges. And Mena is part of the group who are leading this campaign, among other colleagues from the global movement like Bretton Woods Project, Eurodad, Latin Dad, and Seeker, and other colleagues. This vicious circle need to be broken because we are not in. I mean, like, it's an historical moment that we are living all in this momentum. This historical moment are full of crises, and if we didn't act outside of the norms and the box and the new liberal policies, that I can say that it's not, this formula is not working anymore. These policies are not working anymore, especially in our regions. Living under more than 30 years of austerity measures that is affecting everyday life of women in the region didn't develop our countries. The heavy indebted debt, the impact, the gendered impacts of debt on women and in between in the region is more, I can say, can be elevated to be crimes. In Egypt, for example, there is a category of women that was created because of the austerity measures that we are calling al-gharimat. Al-gharimat means the most indebted, women. Those indebted women, because of course the lack of the social protection, fair, just system that can cover or help even families to survive or citizens to survive, created this also category of women. It's always women who pay the bill. That's called al-mar'a al-mu'ila, the bread servers for the family. So al-mar'a al-mu'ila is the woman, the bread earner for the family. They earn the bread for the family, and it's a phenomenon in Egypt. A lot of researchers, a lot of studies are around the bread earner women. Of course, those bread earner women, because of austerity measures and cutting on public spending and lack of social protection umbrellas, fair umbrellas, made those bread winners to al-gharimat. So the indebted al-gharimat, that means they are committed a crime not to be able to pay that debt, to cover their essential needs, to buy a fridge. It's usually women who want to support their daughters or sons to get married. So they sign bills. If they don't pay those bills, they immediately go to jail. There are women in jail for $100, and for from a year to 3 years, and she's a criminal because of austerity measure. So, and I don't want to get strict to Egypt, but for example, the same programs are very relevant in Tunisia. We are having the same takaful and karama in Tunisia, the same $20, by the way. I don't know what is wrong with $20. What's happening with $20? The problem is that comes after, and this is, I say that is the responsibility of an institution, that Bretton Woods institutions, but specifically, I'm speaking about the IMF. Before the programs, before having programs in our countries, I do not see a real diagnostics studies on how the systems in our countries work. How Tunisia is different than Egypt, it's different than Jordan, and different than Morocco and Lebanon. And how also the political state and the social state of this country operates. But again, and I don't want to repeat what we all know, again, we are facing the same formula, cutting the social spending. The first thing that we go to is cutting social spending. And I'm not actually taking the responsibility out of our countries and governments' responsibility. But also, our countries doesn't have a space. The problem is those heavy debt burdens doesn't leave a space, a fiscal space to our country to spend on social protection, because it's putting our country, and this is, by the way, if we are speaking about the IMF system, it is, I can say, against the Article 1 of the IMF, jeopardizing the presence, the economical strength of the country in partnership or the member country or no. This is, a policy like surcharges is actually against the IMF Article 1 itself. So I believe we need to speak about social protection, austerity, and debt in a more holistic way. We cannot tackle social protection programs in all of our countries of the global south without understanding this whole system of debt that is actually led to what Kenya is facing now, what Egypt is facing now, what Tunisia is facing now. So I cannot the civil society also around the world created this global campaign around social protection, but and universal social protection. But again, having a universal social protection with only bits and pieces, that is not the new social contract that even Christine Lagarde, the past president of the IMF, or the past MG of the IMF, spoke about on the 100 years anniversary of the IMF. And I need to know that I'm in time. Perfect. Perfect. So, and it's also getting under the policies that leads to financialization of our daily life's needs. that austerity measures are imposing on us. And I'm a mother. Shouldn't ask. I am a mother. This whole 3 months. I'm a mother. My daughter is 13 years old. And because there is, I cannot say, because of cutting on public spending, so cutting on the education budget, always, health and education are the most two victims. I literally need to sell part of my kidney to be able to pay for her study. And don't tell me why you're putting your child in a private school. Because I need a good education for my child, and I need to guarantee at least a minimum of a decent struggle. Because under those measures and under those policies, we are all on the surviving mood. We are not living. And this is a huge problem that I believe there is a lot of solutions that needs to be done and actually doable. There is a lot of solutions around. I know maybe in the next round we are going to speak, but the important part of it is restructuring the global economical system. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shereen. And when you have mentioned the women heads of household, I remember since long ago, we know that in Egypt there are 1/5, one family over 5 families in Egypt are headed by a woman.
A what?
A woman. Woman heads of households are 20%.
20%.
About 20% of families. Yeah.
I
Thank you,
need
Shereen.
to say that like more than 70% are under the more than 70% of families in Egypt are under the
Poverty line.
the poverty line that the World Bank put even.
How much? How many?
70%.
Wow.
Yes, we're actually 100 million or more to help.
Now we, after this adjustment, 63%.
My goodness.
Yeah. Argentina now.
Yes, we are getting to Argentina
Okay.
and Maria José. And maybe we will not hear about $20, or you also have $20 something.
Less.
Yes. Also, there is one country that didn't like the $20 like the other countries. We will hear something different. Maria José is an old militant. She's a president of the Citizen Association for Human Rights since 1989, fighting for all rights for all. Doctor of Law, specialist in environmental law, a professor at the Faculty of Law and the CBC, Buenos Aires University, co-founder of the Campaign for the Right to Abortion, of the Network of Defenders of the Environment and Good Living, and of the Federal Multi-Sector of Women and Dissidents, member of the United Nations Women's Major Group. And this is the short version of her bio, very short version of her bio. And Maria, you're going to tell us about, there has been a change of systems. You have witnessed in depth
Yes. I will try to
the old
make
system and
the
the new
short
system,
version. Yes.
and how this shift between systems affected women, and how did it happen,
Okay.
and if you have implications.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for inviting me to the Egyptian woman, and it's a pleasure for me to share with you and to change some ideas belonging to the other side of the planet. Since the recovery of democracy in Argentina after the military dictatorship, different governments alterned, some more popular and other more right-wing, which were consolidating some public health policies, social security, and free public education. But depending on the government, we were from one side to the other, and we have social security or cutting in the social security, public health, better public health and education, or cutting in health and education. But the growing inflation generated a great disbelief among the population in the democratic system. And the last election, they voted for an outsider character who is now carrying out the dismantling of the state and the most brutal adjustment that not even previous right-wing governments had there to do so much. Last year, we have 2,000% of inflation, 2,000 of inflation, and the salaries grow 20%. Imagine this context, this was the context of the election, and at this moment, after the last adjustment for the new government, 63% of the population is poor, most of them women of course, and many people with formal employment is poor. For example, teachers, or they're low, below the line. In Argentina, women earn an average of 25% less than men for the same task, and women have less than 11% informal employment. Most of the women are in informal employment. 36% of women. This is the context of we are going to talk about the health security or the social security. The problem that women face is that in addition to maintaining multiple occupations, they also assume the responsibility of caring for younger members of the family and elderly people who require special attention. And this all have to be with the security system, the social system, because if you are taking care of children and elder people of the family or disabled people in the family, and you don't have the accompany of the state through the social security or the health coverage, is a problem for women. We have 33% of families are run by women, 33. I will summarize the system. Until now, we have a very good healthcare system. 30% of the population in Latin America doesn't have access to free public health. But in Argentina, we were always the exception, and we have a very good health protection. We have the health protection as a constitutional right, and the people who live in the area has the guarantee. Because our system is complicated, because we have private system, a specific system for the workers, the formal workers, because there are obras sociales. We talk about obras sociales is the system that is paid for the formal workers and run by the unions. The unions run this system, and it's best than the public system. And then you have the public system that is divided between the system for the pensioners and the public system for everyone. But in the case of the pensioners, they have everything paid, and it's very, very good because they don't pay the remedies, they don't pay nothing. Everything is covered until now. Let's see what happens. We don't know what will happen. And during the right-wing governments, they cut the expenses for health, but we have very good doctors, we have very good personnel in health, and maybe we manage the situation. For example, we have all of our sexual and reproductive rights are covered by the public health system. And the last laws, when we approved the abortion law, legal abortion, and we approved the, all the protections for women, harassment, or everything is covered by the state, and there is compulsory for the private system to apply the law, and it's a program that is equal from private and public system, and everything is covered. This is very important for women. Also, the women that are pregnancy and everything is free. The Argentine public health system is free for everyone, and by everyone we don't just mean the locals. This is very important because it's an exception in our countries. Migrants and tourists can also avail of government-funded programs. Hospitals are completely free, but this new president is debating that, and he said that foreigners have to pay for the health system. This will be a debate because we have laws, but the debate is beginning. We have public education. In the provinces, most of the provinces, people go to public education. In the city of Buenos Aires and surroundings, many people go to private schools, maybe church schools or other kind of social schools, and the state paid to the church schools. We have a debate as feminists because many money of the state go to the private schools, many times schools who are in, managed by, sisters or church, something connected with Catholic Church. It's a debate for feminism, this way of paying, but the public education is very good. We have all the levels, public and free education, also the university. Tomorrow, today we'll begin the classes, but tomorrow we have a stroke because this government began to cut the public education for the universities. They don't want public free of church universities, and tomorrow will be a heavy strike. I say it okay. A heavy strike tomorrow in all over the country. All the universities will have a strike. I'm here, but I have to do a strike. Social security. The social security protects people that leave the market labor for having reached a certain age, old age. Women at 60, men at 65. All the right-wing governments try to put the same age for men and women, but we go to the streets, and until now we have 60 for men, 60 for women, and 65 for men. We have maintained this difference because we think that this is a positive action, recovering the concept that we have double charge of work. And also we have coverage for temporary or permanent impairment in the possibility of working, disabilities, and also we have different kind of beneficiaries in the event of death of a worker, or when you are married or concubine, marriage or couple, and you have proved your relationship is covered. The Argentine integrated pension system was created by law in 1993, and is a state system that manages the funds generated with the retirement contribution made by working people. We have had during the 90s, Mena is our Syrian president, put a private system, and was really a disaster for pensioners. They were really they were estafados. Well, I don't know how to say, but then in the government of Cristina Fernandez, we returned to the public system, and now we have only public system. If you have 30 years of work contributions and you have the age 60 or 65, you can retire. But during the last governments of Néstor Kirchner, Cristina Kirchner, and Alberto Fernandez, we begin to open the system to people that haven't proved 30 years of work. Most of them, we have a specific law for women that have informal work, and they could take beneficiary without proof of 30 years. But they begin to pay after the beneficiary something of this. But this was a huge debate today because this president began to say that this will finish, and also that it's impossible to maintain a system where the workers are less, the workers in working now are less than the people with a pension. Of course, most of the pensioners are women. Now there are not good pensions because all the system is, the pyramid was achatada.
Upside down?
No, the pyramid of the pensioners, the income was low for most of them. Nobody speaks Spanish? No. Well, the pyramid was low.
Low.
Yes. The best policy of the last years during the government of Cristina Kirchner was the universal child allowance. It was one of the most important social justice measures in Argentina history by expanding and equalizing the rights of the large part of country's children. Those of us who pay income tax always deduct an annual amount per child. Formal workers receive an allowance per child, but the new universal child allowance in 2021 covers all the children who have work. The conditions for the universal child allowance are: first, is for the mother who receive the money is the mother first. If there is no money, would be the father. But this was, this was the best equalizing policy for women to receive this universal child allowance. They have to be not busy and registered worker or without contributions, private home worker, social monetary risk, and so on. Well, I tell you, I am finishing. Now the current president of the nation has eliminated the Ministry of Women and has carried out an important adjustment to comply with the mandates of the IMF, but also intend to reduce the tax regime to zero to dollarize the economy, and the main adjustment has been done on retirements and in the salaries of all workers. The income gap between women and men was widened. He criticized previous governments because they say that retirements and pensions cannot be paid with the state money. He proposed returning to the private retirement system that governed in the 90s and was a real scam for retirees. Challenge. The capitalist system today is more extractivist than ever. Financial extractivist and extractivist in the exploitation of nature and women. Women want to change the system. We must leave behind the model of bad development. We talk about bad development. We must value care work, and women must be paid as formal workers for it. Social policies must stop being dependent on the austerity measures imposed by the IMF. We must question the eternal, illegitimate, and unpayable foreign debt. We believe that we must move towards a single health system where everyone has the right to equality health. We believe that retired women, women with disability, and women with children, especially, should have decent coverage and commensurate income. We think that the main political force that would confront with this new anti-rights personage or characters will be the feminism. People is so bored of the political parties. They don't want more democratic systems. This is a problem. This is a big question because the democracy have not resolved the health, the education, the house, and this is a challenge for feminists to have more political power, and I am sure that the future will be feminist or it will not be.
Thank you very much, Maria Jose. Give me my papers. I was also thinking, listening to all this, about the challenges in the future with 2,000% inflation rate and its effect on the current health system. Does all the medicine are made in Argentina?
No.
Okay.
No. For example,
Yeah.
but
This is a question about coming challenges.
But we have very good laboratories making medicines in Argentina. We have now a law that protects generic, and you can go to the pharmacy and buy different. You are not all the medicines come from outside. But for example, with the vaccine, we have dependence, and we see what happened with COVID. But our laboratories were part of the alliances producing the vaccines, and we received we were the first receiving in the third world the vaccines, because we were partners of Pfizer or different laboratories of first world.
Yeah, which comes to the question: is it worthwhile, to ask big pharmaceuticals to waive their patents rights in situations like that, so that such good labs can continue doing their work? And how about also the MRIs and machineries? Are they all made in Argentina, or you would still need to import and so on?
We produce food. We export food, but now the problem is that we lost our sovereignty about food,
No coffee for you.
But yesterday, the new president opened the market to import food. Imagine, this will be a problem for all the people producing food, and the agricultural women will be pressured.
Thank you for the very intriguing paper that you have presented, Maria. And we end by Katarina from Denmark. And Katarina is coming from a welfare country, which is somehow promising, that we're going to change, talking about problems and listen about something from utopia. And I say utopia, I received training by Dr. Leo Engert. He's from Denmark. Some 10 years ago, he was in his 70s, so he must be in his 80s. And he was telling us about the situation in Denmark when he was young. As a student, he went to have a vacation in Paris. And when he returned and told his grandma in Denmark that he saw homeless people sleeping in the street, she couldn't believe him. And she said, no, you're bullshitting or you're lying. There cannot be such a thing. So is it... How is it going now?
It's changed.
Yeah.
A lot.
But let me introduce Katarina. Katarina Blomqvist. Is it rightly pronounced? She's a lifelong feminist, educated in literature, information, science, and gender studies. Worked until now 27 years, and maybe a few days since you left. Yeah. For Kvinfo, the Danish Knowledge Center for Gender Equality. Kvinfo works nationally and internationally for gender equality. Last 17 years worked internationally with gender justice in the Middle East and North Africa and Eastern Europe in partnership with local WHROs, Women Human Rights Organization. And she will cover in her paper the universal social protection systems in welfare states like Denmark and those who still fall through the cracks. Katarina.
Thank you. Thank you. It's nice to be here, and thank you for your inspirational talks. I will try to be a little bit brief. I have also 15 minutes. Yeah, let's see if we can save. I will talk about the welfare state of Denmark and the high level of social security and the cracks and the leaks that we are facing in the system. And I will start with the recommendations. I have 2 recommendations for the Danish government. The first is to improve integration of migrant women in society. And the second is to grant equal social benefits for everyone in need living in Denmark. Because living in poverty is not improving the integration and future of migrant women and their children. And I also have a recommendation for the population of Denmark. That is, that we need to reconsider the limits of our solidarity. It's not broad enough. And I hope that these recommendations will make sense to you when I have made the speech. Denmark is what we call a welfare state, and it's placed in the north of Europe. And Denmark is a rich country, very rich. But there are many rich countries in the world, and not all of them are welfare states. Many rich countries have welfare and security based on insurance systems, which are for those that can afford it. People that are healthy, well-educated, and working can afford to insure themselves for worse times, or old time, or getting old. For old age, yes. For instance, here in the US, all the healthcare systems are based on insurance, and that's connected to your employment. In Denmark and the other Nordic countries, we have a tax-paid welfare state that includes all citizens. It is called a universal welfare model, and in comparison to the insurance-based welfares that are common also in Europe. For the universal social protection system to be women-friendly, 3 basic conditions need to be in place: gender equality, strong institution, and solidarity. And let's look at solidarity first. The idea is that all Danes contribute to the welfare state through work and to paying taxes. And the broadest shoulders should carry the heaviest burdens. However, everyone should contribute to the community. That's the idea. Give what you can and get what you need. The welfare system gives all citizens a range of services and benefits that we all can enjoy. We have free healthcare and hospitals. We have subventioned childcare and child benefits. We have free education from primary school to university. We have scholarships for students, so they are not depending on their parents to support them while they are studying. We have pensions for elderly, and we have public elderly care for all people that cannot care for themselves. And then we have the social, and these are things that are for everyone in Denmark. And then we have the social security benefits for those that have special needs. Early retirement schemes for those that are not able to work at all, that have illnesses, long-term illnesses, mental problems, disabilities. And we have social protection benefits for those that are unemployed and outside the unemployment insurance systems. We have rent benefits, which is good for single parents, often women, that need bigger apartment but cannot afford the whole rent on their salary. And many, many other social benefits for special needs, disabled and so on. I will not go into all details, and I don't even know all the details. The basic idea is that everyone should contribute to society by working. This is the cornerstone in the social system based on tax-paid welfare. And the state has an obligation to see to the welfare of the citizens. But the state also has the right to require that everyone contribute as much as they can. So it is not possible to just live on social benefits in Denmark without working or being activated, as it is called, in the job centers. So the limits of solidarity. How broadly do we define the group of people that we include in our solidarity? That's a political question in Denmark and everywhere else. And then I will move to the second point, the strong institutions. One of the most important institutions for the gender-friendly, women-friendly welfare state that we have in Denmark is the tax authorities. It needs to be well-functioning and transparent. It must be possible to follow the money and have accountability and transparency. The income taxes are the fundament for the welfare state, and without an effective, fair and progressive tax system, the welfare state will break down. We actually have a serious crisis. 20 years ago, a liberal right-wing government in Denmark cut on public spending, and the tax authorities have since not been able to perform as they should. 20 years. Building back is so more difficult than tearing down. And we have had several scandals of huge tax evasions, and the Danes have become very aware that the tax system is the heart of the welfare system. And we have a high level of income taxes and value-added tax, but actually most people pay their taxes, maybe not with pleasure, but with the consciousness that it is important for society. And if you pay 40% of your income in taxes, it is in your interest that these funds are used in the best possible way. And this is also a matter of politics, of course. Many of the social services could be better. They could have better coverage. They could reach target groups more effectively. Even if Denmark is rich, there are limits to what social benefits can cover. And Also in Denmark, we have the care crisis. Gender equality is the third issue. Denmark has a relatively high level of gender equality. In Denmark, women have a very high level of labor market participation. But we also still have all the same problems that we see elsewhere in the world. We have gender-segregated choice of education, a gender-segregated labor market. We still not have equal pay. Women are still doing a lot more unpaid care work in the family and elsewhere than men are. And we still have domestic violence and a whole range of other forms of gender-based violence. Gender inequalities and social vulnerability are intersectional. Gender, class, age, race, and other factors determine how well your needs are served in the social protection services. In this intersectionality, there is one significant factor that determines if you fall through the cracks in Denmark, more than any other. And that is if you are a migrant woman from a non-Western country. I will give you some examples. If you move to Denmark because you marry someone in Denmark, it will take you at least 7 years until you have earned your own permanent resident permit in Denmark. And not until then are you eligible for social benefits. Of course, you will have access to education and healthcare systems, but you will not have, but not any social income cash benefits. And your spouse has the obligation to sustain you. And if you are in a violent relationship, you will not have the right to stay in Denmark if you ask for a divorce before the 7 years have passed.
Oh my God.
Yes?
And get your permanent residence.
I'll give you another example. Newcomers to Denmark do not have the right to the same level of social security benefits as Danes. It is called integrationsydelse, integration benefits. As a migrant, if you don't speak Danish and you don't know the society so well yet, it might be difficult to find jobs. But to earn the higher level of social protection, you need to participate in the labor market and contribute to society. To get kontanthjälp, the social cash benefit, you also need to work. There is requirements that you work, that you actively seek jobs, and you take part in the training and activities at the job centers. So, if you have lived on social benefits in Denmark for 3 years in a row, you need to have had at least 225 hours, that's approximately 6 weeks, of full-time job within the last 12 months. Otherwise, you will get lower level of social benefits. You will be cut. And these requirements are difficult to live up to for some migrant women in Denmark. As a result, many of them withdraw from getting social benefits at all. And in that way, they avoid getting activated in job-like activities by the job centers. But these women are now depending on their family members to sustain them. They fall through the cracks of social solidarity in Denmark. And in this way, we have migrant women and children in Denmark who live in poverty compared to Danish families in the same situation receiving social benefits. And that was my recommendations again. I have one. Yes, so then I can tell you that we now, if you are interested in the homelessness thing, my husband had actually lived and worked for soon 40 years working with homeless people in Denmark, and I can say there are a lot of them, and it's a growing number. So don't worry. It's not like it's exactly as in Paris.
His grandmother didn't know her own society.
No, I think so.
No, but that's some 60 years ago.
Yeah, but
Yes,
it was-
yes,
it was
but
at
her,
that time,
yeah,
because
and
I'm
home,
in Norway.
yeah,
I know this area very
yeah.
well.
Homelessness is a dominantly male problem. It's very hard for those women that are homeless, but it's not women. But the poverty differences in the social benefits that is hitting hard on migrant women in Denmark, and I think that's the most gendered problem and crack I would like to convey to you.
Thank you very much, Katarina. And here our last hope was shattered.
Yes.
I remember Nada and I were attending a meeting with a minister in a European country. And this European country was made as an example of advancement of human rights, that every time we advocated for something in Egypt, we were told, you are not in such and such country. And this woman was in tears in the meeting, real tears, talking about the hate speech that she receives and so on. And yes, our last hope was also shattered there. So let's see if in the questions you can bring a drink of hope, or you have further questions or comments or sharings that you would like to contribute with our speakers.
I would like, thank you so much, all of you. I know how hard it is to be on the hot seat. Everybody's looking at you. Thanks. What I want to say is not a question, but what I heard from you, and you particularly, which is very similar to what we see in Iran. The plans are okay on the paper, but administering them causes problems. And there are not, either they haven't thought of all the stages that, I mean, you get the flow chart, first this has to be done, then this, then you get the approval, then you get the money. Either they haven't thought of it, or the people who are placed there to actually take care of these jobs don't know what to do. But this is, of course, a big problem.
Can I ask a question? You mentioned problems, especially Egypt is my special area as a sociologist. And Neda knows I research about Egypt. And I know women in Egypt are fighting. You have a strong women's movement. But how do you work on economic problem? You told women in everywhere. Women are the largest group suffering of economic problems. And they are the first group, they're going to be unemployed, they are going to lose their job. Even in the in Scandinavian country, we have the same problem. We immigrant women, we are the first group always. We pay for that economic problem if it's come. So how you are fighting, because I know the Al-Sisi's system and how he's working, and maybe you don't want to talk about that, I know. But how women, can you tell how you are fighting for better economic system for women and children in Egypt? Thank you.
Hi, thank you so much for the panel. was really interesting to listen the each country's review and perspectives. So my question is, I think what Shereen, you mentioned about economic system, but more globally, I do believe that it should be changed, as you mentioned. But from the my level of like more grassroots level, I don't really know like how we can actually affect that high level of changes, you know. So maybe if you have some ideas, it would be really great how you see this, how we can actually be part of these changes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all, and thank you for my sisters here for all the interventions. I want to say that I am not looking to, with all my respect, I have sisters, dear sisters from the Global North who are contributing in the fight, but we are not the same at all. Northern countries are not our utopia. Are not our utopia or dream, because the facts is they didn't live under years and years of colonizations that we're still living under. The resources wasn't extracted every day like what we are facing in our region, especially also now. It's not a new colonial era, but it is still the colonial era, but with different structure. So I respect all the struggles of the feminist struggles around the world, but I need to emphasize on this: we are not the same. We are not the same. Our fights are different, and our struggles are different. How we can fight back as a feminist movement from the region, from Egypt, from the region, from the global south. I believe that we have a momentum now. The system revealed its face to us as global south. And I see that things need to work hand in hand. First, building a strong movement from the ground. I mean, we are sitting here in this space. I understand that many of us here are actually working on the economical justice system, understanding what the fiscal policies means, what is the role of the international financial system, etc. But that is not related to the labor force of women on the ground. That is not related to our mothers and sisters and also non-binary movement, and that is not related to them. Because we are using these terms, we need to first to relate financialization, austerity, debt, etc. to our daily struggles. To be able to understand that joining this fight is a human rights. That economical justice is not elitist and only academia or experts who can actually sit at the table and discuss debt mechanisms that can be hosted by the UN. No, us people, us women who need to sit in that table and produce our narrative. This is part of what we are doing as a Mena movement, as a movement from the Mena region that works in economical justice and ecological justice, focusing on that and others. But and I believe after the Arab Spring, the Egyptian revolution, the feminist movement, the Egyptian feminist movement was in the heart of this revolution, calling for bread and freedom. So, and creating and dreaming of a better system, and also putting new theories. So that change can happen. Grassroots is actually the salt of this movement. We cannot be able to change the system without having a strong grassroots movement that can fit in the regional movement and fit in the global movement. This is how I see things. You mentioned before, I'm a filmmaker. I'm not an economist. But I know that I'm active in that space because I believe in justice and human rights, not because I'm an economist. I hope I answered the third question.
Can I make a question? We have 1 minute left. Maybe any of our speakers would like to.
This mic does not matter. But it's fine, yeah? Okay. I think for me, I want to point out to the recent acceptance or the recent approval of the International Tax Cooperation and the achievement, a huge achievement that happened recently in terms of African governments really calling for inclusive and effective tax cooperation at the UN, and we saw that resolution being approved. But at the same time, we saw countries, developed countries that refused to approve that tax bodies, and I think also us having this conversation in terms of how taxation and debt didn't affect the social protection mechanism. It's also time for us to start pushing our government to support. And I'm looking at Denmark sitting next to me. I was trying to quickly check if Denmark really signed onto the taxation plan, or I know countries like approve or refused it. And I know countries like Sweden did not, voted no for that taxation plan. But also, we've seen how this corporate tax within the global south, regime and mechanism continue to abusing, our countries in terms of how, in terms of how, in terms of illicit financial flows, how we are losing billions of shillings that could actually go into this social protection mechanism. And it's not that we are poor, it's because of the fact that, we have horrible corporate tax abuses, we have illicit financial flows, and corruption. That then we lose all this money, and as she says, like each and every time we have austerity measures, what programs are the first ones to be cut? Education, health, all the programs that really cash transfer, all the programs that really support women and girls in all the diversity. So I wanted to say that.
Our time is up, but maybe we can have 1 minute for Maria José to give. She has something.
I want to emphasize that feminism is confronting to the extractivist model in financial system and also in protection of nature. I want to underline that we are working as a strong feminist movement in Argentina, but we are facing two problems. One problem I see is that we can't enter in the political party system because many of us, I have been representative, I have been in the Congress, and I went out of this system because the system is working in a wrong way. But now we have the problem that we are not inside, and it's difficult to debate these issues if you don't have a seat to take decisions. And this is a problem. And the other point, briefly, is the extractivism and the nature. We think that the feminist movement cannot be if there is not a commitment on the environmental issues, because all our countries are being exploited for the central state, and many of the changes they are producing, it could be greenwashing, and is on our shoulders. Because they carbonize Europe, but they come for our lithium, and they are exploiting our nature without control, and our governments want the money, and they never mind if they are selling all our commons. And this is a huge debate because our people can live in this situation on account of the loss in agriculture, the loss of their place. Sorry.
Yeah, basically the rights of the next generations. I thank very, very, very much our speakers, our fantastic speakers, Esther, Shereen, Maria José, and Katarina, and thank everybody who has been here, and we're closing.
Thank you.